I'm pretty sure we all know what Disney is, a multi-billion-dollar mega corporation who has not only made some of our favorite films, but also some of the most remarkably mid movies of all time. 2 years ago on the r/internet mystery subreddit, user Logical Elephant noticed something curious relating to Disney. Quote, "I have noticed that searching for Paranoia.com redirects you to the Disney page. What puzzles me is that in 1995, Paranoia hosted many controversial or close to illegal content websites. So what exactly is Paranoia.com, and what are these close to illegal websites OP is referring to? In today's video, this is the rabbit hole we'll be diving down. This is how Paranoia.com looked like before the domain was eventually bought out by Disney, and one important thing to note is that Disney wasn't affiliated with the site prior to the purchase of the domain name. As evident by the page chock full of 300 groovy links, as they put it, there are countless rabbit holes we can fall down, and I do plan on checking some of these pages out a bit later. But I think in order to understand the strange nature of some of these sites, we need to understand the purpose of Paranoia.com, and we also need to get to know the mastermind behind the website. But before any of that, I just quickly want to thank all of my patrons for your continuous support. You guys are amazing. You guys are the backbone of this channel, and I really freaking do appreciate your support, for real. You guys help me make these videos better and better, and one day I eventually want to get to, you know, the 1 hour video essay type beat level. But anyways, I'm rambling. If you want to support the channel, link is in the description for my Patreon. But anyways, let's now move on to the creator of Paranoia.com. Kevin, Texas, the one who owned Paranoia.com. When you go to his personal page titled Kevin's Little Dream World, which can be found towards the very bottom of the main Paranoia site, you're met with a bunch of links you can click on, including some of Kevin's very own little projects he worked on aside from Paranoia, such as this one, which is ASCII depicting art from fear and loathing in Las Vegas. There's also a site expressing his love for Reservoir Dogs, which is a film released in 1992, and many more, but the one I want to dive into a bit is this page of Kevin giving his thoughts on Paranoia and the internet. Here we can see how this site was a passion project for him. Quote, "Just to set things straight, Paranoia is run not for profit. I personally provided all the initial equipment and have supported the system's costs and finances in time at a personal loss because I feel so strongly about the presence of a system like this one on the net. It's been very rewarding to watch an idealistic dream turn into a reality. As the user base has grown in the 7 months since I first offered low-cost secondary accounts, Paranoia's resources have also been able to grow. Internet access without silly restrictions, censorship, or fear tactics is good. When offered the chance to act responsibly in an open-minded environment, people actually will. I've been thoroughly impressed with the quality of users who have come to Paranoia in the first 6 months." And this is something you'll constantly see on Paranoia, how it's a place free of censorship, which is definitely evident by a lot of the crazy sites we'll soon talk about, and allowing for users to create whatever kind of weird site about any out there topic was his goal with Paranoia. Quote, "Every dollar donated goes towards making Paranoia the kind of place that scares those who would try to tell you what you can and cannot do on the net. Somewhere that all different kinds of information will be made freely available with absolutely no censorship. Somewhere that you can get an account to use mail, Usenet, etc. without silly restrictions or having to be afraid that speaking your viewpoints is going to jeopardize your job. Somewhere that you are treated as a responsible adult who doesn't need to be told how to think." In a nutshell, all of this was Paranoia's mission statement: to provide a space for anyone to talk about anything regardless of how out there the subject is, as long as they do it responsibly, of course. On a site called everything2.com, a user named Co60 made a post giving some basic information about Paranoia, such as, quote, "La Paranoia was a great source of counterculture underground and just plain useful information in the early days of the web. Back in the day, Paranoia.com also offered shell account and web hosting ISP services to those with anonymity requirements or content that conventional ISPs were unwilling to deal with. The Austin, Texas-based site debuted online sometime in 1994 on a lowly 14.4 kilobytes per second connection. Through the efforts of webmaster Kevin, Texas, and other contributors, it worked its way up to a T1 connection serving up to 150,000 visitors per week before shutting down in mid-1998, apparently for financial reasons. And we can indeed see via the Wayback Machine, which also, just a side tangent, bro, this freaking site literally be coming in clutch for these types of videos, so shout out to the team running this site. But anyways, we can see that towards the end of 1998, the site would have a message saying, quote, "This web server is now on the way to being completely down. Our bandwidth has been reduced and you should avoid using this server to keep what we have usable. Most pages will have messages informing you of their new locations. Please remove bookmarks to this page." Now before we move on, I think one important thing to note is that just because Kevin Texas was the owner of Paranoia, that doesn't necessarily mean he had any part in creating any of the sites that you can find through the various links on the main page. However, by the same token, since Kevin did provide services and allowed for the sites to be here in the first place, he might have had some influence to make sure that there wasn't any illegal content on these sites. And as I spoke about previously, Kevin Texas did have his own side projects, so that doesn't entirely rule out the idea of him having worked on other sites as well. One last interesting tidbit of information that I wanted to talk about before we start diving into some of the rabbit holes is a brief history lesson in the redirects of Paranoia.com. First off, we know that the original Paranoia site was made sometime in 1994, even though the earliest snapshot of the site we have is in 1996. But then sometime in 1999 it went completely defunct, and around 2001 is when things start to get interesting. At this point, we get the very first instance of the Paranoia domain redirecting to someplace else, and in this case it takes us to the French page of a web portal called excite.com, which is basically like another Yahoo showing the news, weather, and you can use it for emailing and even as a search engine. However, in 2003 things would get even more interesting. Going through the various snapshots on the Wayback Machine shows that this is one of the first moments that Paranoia.com would redirect to a Disney owned site, that being go.com, which seems to have functioned much like Yahoo or the previously mentioned excite.com did. Nowadays, going to go.com will only take us here, which seems to just function as a place to go to Disney's other various sites. This is slamcop.neocities.org, and the reason we're here is because it seems like the person running this site has been on the internet for a while, to say the least, and they probably know their stuff in terms of early internet culture. So now, let's go check out some cool links. Now, since there's hundreds of possible rabbit holes we can fall down due to there being hundreds of links, I decided to come here, specifically below the archived oddities section of the cool links page where there's something written about Paranoia. Quote, "Anyway, one of the features offered by this ISP was hosting for subscribers' homepages, and the list of user pages is a goldmine. Owing to the privacy and free speech oriented nature of the service, the focus of these pages tends to be kind of cultural, transgressive, or just plain weird. Some highlights include the psychedelic tabby cabal, a very postmodern techno-libertarian page with a pro-drug bias, the Unabomber PAC, a satirical Unabomber for president page selling "Don't Blame Me, I voted for the Unabomber" bumper stickers, and GOAT, a blood splatter shock site that puts Rotten.com to shame." Without any further ado, let's now check out some of the highlighted sites, starting with the psychedelic tabby cabal. I'm not even gonna lie to you, I have no idea what's going on here or what any of this mishmash of symbolism is supposed to mean, but the site starts getting interesting when we start clicking some of the links below. Going to where it says manifesto brings us to a welcome page of sorts, and now it's 2023 and the internet is something that's been established for many years now, but since this page was created in the late 90s, we have a different perspective as to how users viewed and described the internet in its infancy. The World Wide Web is truly a revolutionary phenomenon. We are now, for the first time in the history of humanity, allowed to share artistic, intellectual, and philosophic expressions globally, without the direct intervention of a larger entity, be it the government or some mass media conglomerate. These pages are about various aspects of the culture which spawned this phenomenon, and the frantic change that it is about to beset the world as we know it, as we realize the new technology of culture, the global internet, as a transformational apparatus. Despite predictions of some quote-unquote expert analysts who saw the internet as a mere fad, the net has experienced continued massive growth since these pages were first posted. I decided to highlight these parts from the manifesto because nowadays we intuitively understand that we use the internet and in turn social media and what have you to share ideas, gather information, and communicate with others regardless of where in the world they are. Not only that, but the fact that anyone thought that the internet would merely be a fad, something that would have faded into obscurity later down the line, is absolutely mind-boggling because of how prominent it is in our society today, and it makes sense why we still use it. It just has too many practical uses not to. into. All tangents aside, I think that me just scratching the surface of this weird site is telling to how much content there is to dive into, not only here but on the next website that I wanted to talk about, that being the Unabomber PAC.
Technology is making our lives mundane, unfulfilling, and unnatural. Our spiritual and psychological health is in the gutter thanks to big tech and industrialized society. Our planet is equally doomed. These issues do not know left or right, conservative or liberal. The problems brought upon us by technology will only get worse. So let's just blow it all up. It's time to start over. That was the philosophy of the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski.
Born in Chicago, Illinois on May 22nd, 1942, he was very smart, a prodigy in fact, getting accepted into the prestigious Harvard College at only the age of 15, and he actually ended up attending at age 16. In around May of 1978 and 1979, at the Northwestern University in Illinois, bombs detonated. In November of 1979, yet another bomb detonated, this time on American Airlines Flight 444. And throughout the years, Ted would continue to create these homemade bombs and send them either by mail, or he would hand deliver these concealed and, quote, increasingly sophisticated bombs. Now, of course, there's a lot more to the story of the Unabomber, but I wanted to give you a little bit of context as to who he is, because we're now tying this back to the site found on Paranoia called the Unabomber PAC. Of course, with Paranoia being pro-free speech and all, you're gonna find sites saying wild things such as, "Don't blame me, I voted for the Unabomber," and even a list of the top 10 reasons why you should vote for him as president. And they even sold bumper stickers. And now, despite how crazy the notion of a jjjreact becoming our president is, I think it's important to note that this site is satirical, and not just to finalize things. There's of course a ton of sites I didn't cover that I might just save for another disturbing media around the web video. By the way, if you haven't watched volume 1 yet, consider checking it out. But anyways, I want to let you guys know that I will be streaming very soon. I'm going to try to stream every single week, but I do have a second channel where I will be posting videos from the stream. The link will be in the description. The channel is called Swanini TV. I'll be streaming here, right here on the main channel. Anyways, I want to thank you all very, very much for watching and supporting this video and supporting my content in general. Like I always say, I do not deserve your support. I do not deserve you guys watching my video. I don't deserve it, man. I really don't, because at the end of the day, I'm just another YouTuber that out of the millions that are out there that are probably making better content than I am. But you guys decide to stop by here, and I genuinely do appreciate that, because I love making these videos. Thank you all for watching one more time, and I'll see you guys next time. Deuces.
When I'm on YouTube, I be like Swanini, eating my chicken noodle soup just like Swanini. When I hit that name.